Hi everyone, this is Ricky with Bromero Cards, and I'm back with another tutorial on a card that I'm going to make. Today I'm using the Hero Arts April kit that they released. It has these different images of women in dresses and things like that. Something I would have liked in this kit is probably a male. I think that would have been nice, but here we go. So we're going to start out. I'm going to be using a Winnie and Walter stencil. And then I'm going to pull out it's a cardstock that's has wood grain on it. It's from Hero Arts and it's textured. And I'm going to cut that actually to 3 3/4 by 5 on my paper cutter here. It takes me a few minutes to adjust the measurements sometimes because I'm not really good at the measurements. I have to kind of eye it sometimes. And then I'm going to take the piece of paper, I'm going to put some adhesive on the back, something that's not going to permanently stick, and I'm going to stick it to my craft mat. And this will allow the paper just to stay in place so that I'm able to place the stencil on top of that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some micropore tape here, and I'm going to put some tape on all four corners. I'm going to grab some Tim Holtz Oxide inks. This is worn lipstick. I'm going to spread it down on the craft mat. And I'm also going to take cracked pistachio from that set as well and put that onto the craft mat. And the craft mat is easy because nothing soaks into it, so I could just put paint on top of it and then wipe it off when I'm done. I'm going to use this Faber-Castell glitter glue. It's actually glitter and glass beads. It's like an embossing paste. And I'm going to stir it up here just to make sure everything's all mixed up. And then I'm going to take a glob of it and I'm going to stick it onto the pink paint. And then what I'm going to use is the palette, and then I'm going to mix it up and just make sure it's mixed up and nice and blended. And you're going to do it kind of like a cake frosting and just go back and forth until there's actually no white paste. It's just all pink. And now I'm going to take that paste, I'm going to spread it across the stencil until it's evenly applied, kind of like cake, putting frosting on a cake actually. It's really gritty, so you need to make sure it's in every corner and that it's evenly spread to where you want it to be. Then I'm going to wipe off the palette knife and then take a big glob of it and stick it in the pistachio and mix it up the same way until it's all green. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm also going to place this at the bottom of the stencil. And just the same, you're going to be applying this. I mixed it up a little bit with the pink towards the top to kind of do a blending effect. And here in a moment, you're going to see that I actually take more of the pink and apply it to the stencil as well. And I try to spread it down a little more into the green, but then it started to turn brown a little bit. And I really didn't like that. It's okay because later on it gets covered up and you really can't tell. And now I'm going to clean up my area. This is something that you have to clean up really quickly because if it dries on your stencil or your craft mat, it could actually ruin it. I'm going to lift it up and show it to you here. It's a little glittery, but it's still wet, so you really can't tell what's happening. I'm going to take the tape off the stencil, and then through the power of the internet, I'm going to come back, and it's going to be clean. It's amazing. So I'm just getting my craft mat worked or evenly, just so that it's neat, nice and neat. And then here in a second, you're going to see me, I'm going to dry off the stencil, then dry off the mat, and then dry off the stencil again. You just want everything to be clean when you start the next step. The next step, I'm going to take a piece of My Favorite Things cardstock. I think it's called pink bubblegum or bubblegum pink. I'm really not for sure. And I'm going to cut that at 4 by 5 1/4. And then I'm going to take a piece of white cardstock and take an oval stitch die from Lawn Fawn. I forget what size this is. It's in the small group, I believe. And then I'm going to die cut that out as well, speeding all this up because that part's boring. And I have my pieces for my card. So the next thing I'm going to do is cut out actually the dress for the card. It's going to be like a paper piece, I believe is what they call it. And I'm using Memento black ink to do the stamping. And I'm just here trying to figure out exactly where I want to place it. This paper, I'm not for sure where it's from. I just like the pattern, and it's kind of, Wizard of Oz-ish, as I should say, I suppose. And then I'm going to just take the die and die cut this out as well. With the micropore tape, I'm just making sure that it's not too sticky. So I place it on my arm and my hand just to make sure. And I use the tape to actually cut out the die. So then I take the die cutting machine out again and I cut this out really quick. Should be over in a second. I try to make this a little faster so that it's not as boring. I have an issue sometimes getting my plates into the Big Shot, and I have to mess around with it a little bit. So I take the die out, and then I realize the tape was still a little too sticky. So I have to take the scissors or tweezers and then take off that tape. Next, I'm going to do the stamping for the girl on the card. These are the legs. I'm using the memento as well. I'm putting them at the bottom, very bottom of the oval. And I'm placing the dress there because I need to place exactly where the head should go, because not everything is connected. When you see me put this together, it looks really weird. The girl's arms look really weird in the beginning, but they're okay at the end. So now I'm just trying to piece the paper there and make sure I put the arms in the right location. And then I put the dress back on, and then I do the other arm as well. This set is pretty neat because there's all different ways you can make the women in different dresses and different poses. It's a really neat set, and I would suggest getting it especially if you're into fashion. That was really neat. I take some Tombow and I'm going to put that down on the oval. And then next what I do is I take the smaller frame and get some fun foam, and then I'm just going to cut a smaller version of that. And what this does is allow it to pop up on the card. And this was a lot easier than the last video. My friend Melinda actually said, use score tape for that. So that's what I'm doing here. It's a double-sided tape. And then I'm going to place the oval on the very bottom of that. Meanwhile, this is drying. I had to actually dry it faster, so I'm using my heat gun. I'm not going to make you watch that whole thing, and it should skip to the next thing here. And I'm almost done with it. It's pretty dry. You should probably leave it for a day for it to dry, but I was in a hurry and I was impatient. Same thing here. I'm going to grab the fun foam, and then I'm going to use score tape to actually put this on the card. You'll see that I'm a little short on the fun foam, and with this piece of paper, we're going to need a edge-to-edge fun foam. If you don't do that, then the edges curl up because the paper is warped from the heating and then the embossing paste as well. So you see that I'm a little short. I'm just putting a thin piece there and completing that. And then I'm put the score tape on the back of the card. I'm going to place it on the bubblegum pink MFT card as well. And that'll set the base for the card. It takes forever to actually take this paper off sometimes. I mess with it. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's super, super sticky. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some, it's shiny there. You can see it's a little bit drier. You can see the glass beads in it. This is the hardest part for me in making a card, is when I'm adding a bow to the card. My fingers are way too big for this, but I've watched many videos and I've kind of learned from that. And a good tip is to have the tweezers there to hold the knot for you while you're trying to tie it. This takes me several attempts to actually make this bow. The embossing paste was still a little too wet, so a few things were sticking to it. Here I am. I'm going to mess around with it a little bit and try to get it to be the perfect bow, which will never happen, and I'm okay with that. The card looked good at the end, and that's all that really matters. And then here I'm just trying to get the bow over a little more to the right so that I could stick the girl on the card. And I finally get it in the right position, and I'm going to take the score tape and place it on the back, and then take the paper off and then place it onto the actual card base. Again, it takes me a few seconds to get this off. This is sped up 4 times as fast, so believe me, it's not always this fast. Gonna stick that down and make sure it's right. I see a little piece of dog hair or something in there because I do have dogs. So sometimes you'll get a dog hair in your project and you have to take it off, or sometimes you just give it to the person with the dog hair. This is Neenah Solar White cardstock, 110 pound. I'm just going to use some liquid glue and place this on the very bottom. This allows me to actually move the card around to even it around the edges. So here I thought the card was complete, but I thought I would put something on the inside, and you'll see how shiny it is. I decided I was going to put a sentiment on the inside. I believe I used gorgeous or fabulous. And then what I'm just going to do is mount that on a clear acrylic block and dip that down in the Memento ink and put it on the inside. But here for a second, you'll see when you have dimensions on the front of your card, it's hard to keep the card down. So I'm using all these objects to try to get it to weigh down and fit right so I don't mess up the stamp on the inside. Oh, actually, this is Versamark Fine Ink. I'm conditioning the stamp with a little oil from my hand. That makes it the ink stick a little easier. You should do that for most of the stamps that you're working with. And then just an added touch to this, I looked at the set and I was like, oh, I would really want to add something else. So I saw this dog, it's a poodle, and I decided to take that out and put it on the corner of the card. I just thought it added a little more fun to the card, and who doesn't love a poodle, right? So I condition the stamp, I dip it down, and I put it in the corner there. And then this is the end of the video. This is the finished card. You're going to see me lift it up and show it to you. And so have a great week, and I will talk to you later. Bye.